Well, good evening. You are listening to Dr. Margaret and Dr. Katie Speaks this evening, and we are going to be talking about relationship dysfunction and toxicity. And we know that with a few exceptions, human beings want to be emotionally and physically connected or close to each other. And life can seem so much better when it's shared with another person. And so but that doesn't mean that relationships are all healthy. That doesn't mean relationships are all perfect. Everything requires work, just like personal growth requires work. And with every endeavor that we encounter throughout a lifetime, there's always going to be a lesson learned. And Margaret and I are going to be talking about the relationship toxicities that can develop in having relationships. It doesn't matter whether it's with your husband, which is more common with family dysfunction and spousal dysfunction, and possibly even friends, because we find that out throughout high school, obviously, because we have friendship breakups and whatnot. We've all been there. We've all done that. We've all, I know for a fact from my personal experience, I've had multiple relationships that have ended up in toxicity, and they've also ended up being somewhat dysfunctional completely. In if we separate toxicity and dysfunction, they can mean two separate different things, but there's always two sides to the story. So with that said, let's dive in. Margaret.
Okay, yes, thank you. Well, actually, I'm going to go back because I'm older than you. I'm going to go back to saying that, after World War II, because when I was born in the middle of it, there were so many relationships that I witnessed as a child, including my own parents, because everyone in London and across the country, of course, was post-traumatic stress disorder, and we didn't have that. So the British thing was stiff upper lip. So don't tell anybody kind of thing. Walk around like you're absolutely 100% in charge of everything and you know exactly what you're doing. And of course, when you've got that kind of attitude and someone else comes along and says, well, why are you doing that? And they got a face like I just made. It's to someone who thinks they've made up their mind and they've got, everything in charge, is an inference in some way that upsets them. The next thing you know, there's one argument going on that is really like thunderstorms, in your ears, because people are screaming at you that you don't know what you're talking about because you don't know their life and you don't know what they're doing and you're not inside their brain, you're not inside their emotions. So what do? You end up crying. And now you're crying because you're wimpy. You're not got the stiff upper lip anymore. You're a flake. You're someone who's not reliable, responsible. All this whole stuff gets lumped on us in assumption. And so I wanted to start there with assumption, because if we go back to the simple thing of marriage, and no matter, let's leave religion out for a minute. The simple marriage, you assume that Prince Charming or Princess is going to have all the bells and whistles to fix you. And of course, everyone has their own idea of how they want to be fixed. And, someone would come up to me being a child, of course, and say, I really got this bad wrist or something, will you fix it? So I would just go like that. And I'm just sitting there, my hands are getting hot, and they're going, well, when are you going to do something? I am doing something. Oh, well, what am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to do? Tell me. And then you tell them, and then it was like, but that's weird. I can't do that. And that in itself is just, in my mind, a toxic state of being. And no matter who you bump into, no matter what anybody says, you're right and everybody else is wrong. And so I think we want to start there on that basics, and then we'll go ahead in different directions to different kinds of toxic relationships. You up for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with me, my first marriage, the man I married was 11 years older than me. So, to me, boys were boys. They were still playing football or soccer, as you call it today. and talking about beer up the pub and getting drunk and whatever. And, and it's like at 20 years old, these aren't the kind of guys I want in my life. I want someone who's responsible and able to take care of me. You see? And so I found this, I was named Russell in that marriage. And, I had 2 children. And what happened was I found out he was manic depressive, black moods.
Mm.
And of course, when that happened, all hell broke loose because he didn't know which way was up and what he was doing, and violence was the outlook. But that's not the only way people get at you, because we'll talk about different kinds, I think, as we go through. But when you're hit, when you're knocked down, when you're kicked, when you're in some way going through this, and then you've got these toddlers running around crying and yelling at the same time because something's coming down with mom, what face you're going to show? And who's reading the face? I did do a show, by the way, on expression, so we might want to talk a little bit about that. But you also were hurt when you were in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I got into my relationship though, and I learned the hard way, because I ran away from home when I was 16, or 15 and a half, almost going on 16. And so I had to kind of have a little bit of streetwise to me to understand how to look after myself, because I was by myself on a very, very basic income. I think I was living off of like $400 a week, a week.
I was going to say a month, more likely.
No, I think in total it was about $800 a month, which I had my own apartment. I had to pay my own bills, my utilities, everything like that. So I really had not a hell of a lot of support, but I had to learn things on my own. And of course, as a woman, I ran to the best thing that was there, which was another boy. And from there, I ended up having a late teenage pregnancy, which resulted in me really sitting down and trying to understand whether, make the biggest decision of my life, whether to move forward with my pregnancy, or whether to actually sit back and,
Well, let me interject there with that, because for people listening, we have to remind them that, I'm nearly 79, and you're half my age. So there's a whole different concept just between you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I'm listening to you in the modernisms of today, I'm going to say to you how lucky you are, because you have choices. When I was your 20, I've been nursing and so on, as you know, but I married someone in that profession. So I thought I'm going to be safe in that profession. And we still had in those days the remnants of the earlier, still 1940s and before that, because women did not work. It was the war that got women to work, because all the men were at war, right? So the kind of work that women did was either nursing or some kind of secretary work, clerking, typing all day and filing files away. There was no computers or anything like that. And so the mentality of women back in those days was, I can't do anything else. I'm a baby factory. So I have to get married and I have to have a baby, because we got to carry on the family traditions and lines and so on. And it didn't matter whether you were Jewish, German, French, Italian, or whatever. European is my experiences, of course, in those days. I didn't know much about America in those days, or Australia, really, quite honestly. But you could stop anyone on the street who's a woman, obviously, and say, are you working? They'd look at you like, what? No, I've got the babies and I've got to run the household, and my husband, he's hardly making enough, but we're surviving. And women had to learn to knit socks. They had to sew pants for the boys and dresses for the girls, or whatever it was. So they had all these talents. Your generation, you can buy them off the peg for $10 in sale, things that I could never have got. So I just want to lay that foundation stone that there is 5 generations still alive because we're living to be older. Okay, so we've got great grandma, grandma, mom, child, and their babies. So there's one big system. So the more we got intelligence, I say, as women, the more the men were threatened, because now they're not just the ones going out to work. We are working with them. We are making money and so on. And so I've watched through the years the relationships evolve differently and become more and more and more toxic. Because back in the war days, there was no question of divorce. You know, because where were you going to go? You couldn't get a job. You couldn't put a roof over your head for your kids. There was no social place to go where they would take you in and wait to find you somewhere else safe like you have today. So I want to say categorically that for women, I think the world has really shifted, and I'm gung-ho for this right now because I've lived all these years working, counseling, healing women who self-esteem is so low on the floor that they really, really believe that their only way is marriage and a man is going to take care of them. And I want to flip on the other side to the men who came back from the war, worn out, exhausted, wanting a nurse, as it were, to say, there, it's okay. And the women couldn't because they were so exhausted with working in the war and doing whatever. And so there was no way to separate for Europe. Women can go to work now, men can go to work, and we'll all do what you're doing now. There was no way that was even addressed. Nobody was even thinking about it. So if you married someone who was mentally, emotionally going down the wrong pathway, you had no get out. And I had no get out. And in my second marriage, which was not physically violent, it was alcohol and gambling and that kind of thing. Brilliant, lovely man, very loving, but ruined himself with all of that, gambling and so on. And 2 more children, and yet again, another divorce. So I went through 17 years of pain and suffering with the idea that I was not able to earn an income because there was no change in that 17 years. And then your generation starts popping up and few older than you. And that was when they started to say women should have equal pay and all these different things that happen. So I don't know who's listening today. And I want to say, if you're my generation or you're Katie's generation, we want to hear your issue, your problem, because we're both counselors. And if you come in online now and tell a little bit of your problem, we can give you some advice, because that's what we're here for. We're going to be doing lectures, aren't we, and workshops on, you'll say about that in a minute. But you might want to tell them what you would like to talk about if they call in. And then I'll do the same afterwards. So people at least know what they're able to call us for. And if you're not listening now and you're listening to a rerun, you can get hold of us so we can do sessions. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you carry on a little bit of you now.
Continuing on my story though, I will say that, yeah, I went and I had a teenage pregnancy, but I did have that choice. And my choice was, you know, after I was smart enough to know, because I was in college at that point, I was smart enough to understand and make a calculated decision that was informed by how much money I had, stuff that wouldn't really be considered like you get pregnant and you have to deal with it. Whereas me, I went through my finances, I went through my living situation. And then I sat down and I thought, well, am I healthy enough to carry this child full term and continue on and then bring it into the world? And with the little finance that I had and the man that I felt pregnant to, I didn't really want to be with him. So therefore it lead me into this hole of looking after a child, being a single mother at the age of 17. And I really didn't want that for me. So I ended up doing the obvious. But then, you know, a lot of the girls that it's that whole 80s period where you're kind of like transitioning to the old traditional ways of being the housewife, and also moving into the modern era where late you get married a little later in life. And I didn't get that chance. I had already bought a house by the time I was 19. I'd already gotten married by the time I was 20, almost 21. I'd already had children by the time I was 23. So everything happened for me really, really early. I went for, it's kind of like a tumbleweed effect. But and so because I didn't have that support, because I left home at a very early age and survived on my own, I had to learn by myself. And I didn't have that guidance or support for the relationships that could have were about to ensue. And so when I married young, I didn't know what it was like I mean, yes, I lived with a man and all of that kind of stuff, but I moved in with him 3 months into the relationship. It was kind of like really, really fast. And I at that point, because of abandonment and issues and whatnot, I was like, okay, well, I got to cling on to the first thing that loves me, or cling on to the first thing that is taking care of me. And so I put myself into that position. And what I didn't realize was the other person was extremely toxic. And so I spent most of I'm not saying that they were bad, good and bad. I'm not even going to say it. There were always bad situations, and there were a lot of good in there. But the thing is that, you know, I was made to be put into position where I was controlled. I was working 3 jobs, 7 days a week. I was catering to serve my man, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And so that has issues within itself. And
Yeah, and when you say that, it's pretty normal for a woman to believe that, having the baby, cooking the sandwiches or whatever it is for hubby to go off to work and have the dinner when he comes home was still something your generation had, because you're the age of my children, you see what I mean? So that was very much the way of the times. And like you, I had to make a decision at 17, 18. No, I was 18. I was with another person, and I had to make that choice to not have a child. And I can tell you that it was illegal to do anything about it. And it was not comfortable to have that done. And, with a background, status, and tradition, if you were an unmarried mother, you were ostracized when you say. So, and then not only that, but your family would be ostracized. Whereas today, you can have babies out of wedlock and the family is all supportive, and somehow they get by and get around it. So there wasn't really any choice for women back in those days. And we only had midwives who knew how to give you certain herbs and things, or doctors who knew what to do and shouldn't do, and they did it on the QT and quiet, that means, and charged a lot of money. And where did women have the money? They hadn't got the money to pay a doctor, and there was no anesthesia or anything, so it was painful. And women could handle pain because they'd handled pain and abuse for hundreds of years under the thumb of men. So to me, looking at you, you had a lot easier time. My kids had a lot easier time than I did. And I'm not saying that from the point of view of poor me. I'm saying that from the point of view that I hope people are appreciating how much women in general had done, from suffragettes all the way through to now, to make it possible for someone like you to be able to have a career and bring up your babies without a man on your doorstep, and feel you're successful. And I see that in you, and I'm proud of you. Yeah, I am. I love what you've achieved, and I want to encourage anyone out there that's feeling miserable and depressed right now because they're in a stuck, toxic relationship. Gay, straight, could be business, could be your teacher who's teaching you a career and you're not getting along with them. there's just so many different things, and I think we should go into those different kinds of things and tell people how to handle it, rather than, you know, this is a toxic situation, ABC. I think today, if we can, give them some advice. So if you're listening and you want some advice, call in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention too that just on the flip side, we're not just focusing here on women because abusive or dysfunctional relationships do happen with men. They can have very similar upbringings, is just roles reversed. And so I don't want to discount the men, because right now we're talking about our own experiences, because we are women, and these are the things that we do have seen in the past and in modern society, where traditions are completely changed. And there are men that who do all over the world find very, very successful women who are with them, may have married into a family or a female's family for status, or for whatever reason, because they may have been poor, or they may have not had any stability. So the woman's family have taken into account and said, hey, this is you know let's unite and see where it goes. And usually the husband becomes daddy's employee, call it what you will. But then later on, you might find out down the track that the wife becomes abusive, because she has an expectation that comes with status, an expectation that comes with the family heirloom, so to speak. And so these men do get abused. They get abused in all sorts of different ways. It may not be the same as what it is to a woman, but it definitely is for a man. And it's just like the topic of rape. Just as much as women, a woman can be raped, doesn't mean a man can't be raped, because men are raped every single day.
And you know, I'm interject here because I admit that during my third marriage, my husband was an angel, but he was a passive aggressive. And I wanted to point this out because there's probably many women who have got men like this around, where they say, I'm going to support you, I'm going to help you. And now I'm going to put it in a silly scenario. Okay, what would you like me to bring home for dinner tonight? And you say, Chinese. Make it just simple. And, oh, we had Chinese last week. Oh, okay, well, what would you like? Well, I don't like curry. Okay, and then they go on about, well, so what do you want again? So you go, okay, well, how about, I'm just making stuff up, Indian. Oh, I hate India, it makes me have diarrhea. Oh, okay, well, you choose then. Where do you want to eat? Well, I don't mind a hamburger. Okay, well, we'll have hamburger. Oh, but no, I don't want to go to this one. You choose where we want to go. And it ends up, we don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
We don't get any food, and I end up cooking something, which is what he wanted right in the beginning. Home cooking. See what I mean? That is toxic. It's, you know, happening once might be okay. You're like getting a bit frustrated, but okay. But hundreds of times, your back's up. You know, so I got the, you know, if he said to me, what do you want to eat? I'd always come forward and say, you choose. And he'd say, no, you choose. And I say, I've got something to do. And I go away and I come back and he chose it. See, but if I'd have kept saying, you choose, we would have just played that game. Everything I'd have mentioned would have been something that he would have somehow turned around to not want. And so I chipped at that one in right away, because it can be that simple. And it doesn't sound toxic, but over time it's manipulative. So I'm going to throw that one in and let you carry on. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to mention about men, because I feel, me personally, I feel that the men, well, the issues of toxic relationships and dysfunction, that is in the reverse. So we're not talking about females that are the victims in a dysfunctional toxic relationship. I'm talking about the men. I think that men are very, very, it's understated It's not really talked about. It's kind of like a taboo because, you know, women are so upheld so highly that, and of course, women do talk. But the thing is that men do not know how to express their emotions properly. They don't know how to talk about those things that have really affect them, and that is usually on the emotional side. And so these little things that happen to in toxic relationships that happen to men being the victim in this all, um, goes under the radar quite a lot of the time. And I just want to mention too that any relationship involving physical violence or substance abuse is by definition extremely toxic. We're talking about the extreme end of the spectrum of dysfunction and toxic relationships. And I will say that it requires intervention, and without two very few exceptions, separation. If it gets to a point where there is physical violence and there's substance abuse of any type, or addiction, please seek help, seek and find that door, find, because, and I'm speaking by experience at this point, because I am someone that has been through this. And I was on a show yesterday. I was talking about the revolving door, and the revolving door is when a victim of someone of such extreme toxicity sees a revolving door. You go round and round and round and round and round and round and round. Now you got to remember that a toxic individual behaves in the way that he or she does essentially for one reason, and that is to be in complete control, have all the power to be able to, because at the end of the day, a lot of these, well, I would say, I would call them a predator, because that's what they really are. They prey, they have to be in control. And so when it gets to that point,
Can I interrupt there? I don't always agree with that, because I think sometimes their being out of control is actually their control. So that's why I wanted to throw that in, because the more tantrums or, you know, manipulations of actions, deeds, that even the facial expression, I mean, you know, you can have someone go, you know, and that's enough to just stimulate the person who's dealt with that look 101 trillion times, to just fire off and become, in quotes, the apparent monster. So that's why I want to bring it back down, rather than, because you're jumping right onto the top level. I would like, if you don't mind, to come back down to what we see, hear, touch, feel in dealing with one another. You know, body language, looks, expressions, tone of voice, stance, standing, leaning over you, whatever it is. There are so many physicalities that our little brain box is on alerts looking for. And when we have someone who's docile, quiet, but does all these looks and body languages, but never gets up and does something, doesn't contribute in some way, then the one who's leading loses it, because they're frustrated, they're angry that all the burden is on their shoulders. You see what I mean? I felt like that. And you couldn't run away with 4 kids. You know, where are you going to go? Because there was nowhere to go. And my 4 kids were copying their dad. So that was inevitable, that I was going to have 4 more miniature manipulators who just knew how to press my buttons. So I'm also going to say, you know, you're right to mention with men, that women can be very strong manipulators, and the men just go along with it. I had a sister-in-law, and her husband, he would escape to the garden and he was always fixing things around the house. And then she would complain he's never beside her. But every time he was beside her, she was critiquing. You didn't do this indoors. You didn't do that. You didn't do something. And when I tried to counsel her at one time because she was crying, all she could hear was, he's not good. She was good. And so I want to bring that in because I'm saying what you're saying is perspective, but we have to have an awareness of each side has a perspective on one another, and their interactions are going to be relative to their upbringing, RNA.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, anyone listening, if you've got questions, we'd love you to call in.
Yeah, and by the way, the call-in number is 929-436-2866 with the meeting ID number 522-657-2748. It is listed up in the description. It is also listed in the comments section of the broadcast if you're watching on video. Again, I'm going to mention it, the phone number. The call-in number is 929-436-2866. With the meeting ID number, you'll be prompted to enter 522-657-2748.
So don't be afraid. We're here to help you. Okay, so taking that toxic thing, we didn't have that word when I was studying psychology and psychiatry. And so everything was just a mess. And you're just fiddling around the best way you could to manage. So here's another example: manipulation by lying. Honey, I'm going to be home soon. Do you want me to pick you up some food on the way or something? Blah, blah, blah. I shouldn't be long. I just got to pop over and see someone about a business. 5 hours later, dinner's ruined. Where are you? No answer, no cell phones, none of that in those days. Worrying about whether they had a car accident or something, whatever. And they roll in the door and start to tell you that someone asked them for one drink and they're blind drunk, sorry, we're late. And here's his freezing cold fish and chips or something. And you're supposed to smile sweetly and say, oh, well, thank you, darling. Well, 20 of those, you're not thank you, darling anymore. You're the ramping, raging lunatic who's ready, fists in hand. But of course, you control it. Don't want to let him know. Can't let him know he's hurting me. Those are toxic to self. And that's why I put that up. I was so toxic to me that I clinically died when I was 37. And it caused me to have Parkinson's disease. So, we have to look at self. It's very easy to blame the other person.
Well, here's the thing. Here's another one that is a good to point out. I mean, you talk about manipulation. We can talk about depreciation or belittling. Most people don't recognize that, and that is really, really toxic. It might come in the form of, let's say, I'm just kidding. Can't you take a joke? And unfortunately, what the problem is that they're really being sarcastic, and that sarcasm is actually the fact that they're actually not kidding. They're meaning what they're saying, but they're covering their own belittlement by telling you that they're just kidding.
And it's an inference sometimes too. Inferences go far deeper than I'm going to do it to myself. If I looked at myself like this and I said, you really look ugly today, I would be going like, what? But if the inference was, oh, you colored your hair, it's like, oh shit, I don't look good. It's deeper. You just take the inferences because your brain can analyze 1,001 ways that inference could mean. Mm-hmm. And before you know where you are, you're on the floor, right?
Yeah, and of course it promotes your low self-esteem. It promotes low, your worth and your value goes straight out the window because you're like, oh well, hang on, are they really telling me a joke? Are they not telling me a joke? Are they kidding? Are they being real? Are they it's kind of like gaslighting. It's kind of like gaslighting as well. Another one we can bring up is the bad temper, and this is what you brought up earlier: the emotionally abusive partner who just gets irritated by everything, or agrees to disagrees, even though they've given up arguing. They continue on with the bad temper, so they get to a point where they lose their temper, and you end up with probably
A few bruises or more.
yeah, a few bruises or more. But that's a form of controlling by intimidation. So
But let's talk about it on the other side. I can tell you with my frustrations, there were times when it took every ounce of my will to not do something in action, like hit out, slap their face. One time I was so mad, I was holding a knife. I took all my strength to put that knife down because I was so angry.
like the show that I was on last night, I was saying, I spent many years retaliating because I wanted to prove my worth to the conversation, to prove my worth to the argument, to prove who because I wanted my voice to be heard. It was and I was put into a position where I was controlled, so controlled to the point where I didn't have a voice. And so by retaliating to a toxic situation was my way of becoming defensive and becoming someone that can put their feet firmly on the ground and try and talk about it, but it was in a toxic way. And I didn't realize that I was doing it at that particular time, but I now realize, and of course that's why when I was talking about the revolving door, it's that when we can't see a way out of the solution, we see that revolving door. It's only when we are shown the way we can be guided to the light in order to walk through that door and seek the solution to it.
Well, of course, I was lucky because I had three really strong guides: Sister Teresa, Red Cloud, and Cornelius Tacitus. I didn't know all their names at that time, but I would be sitting in the chair crying my eyes out because yet again, more lies, more gambling, more this, more that. And what can I do? And I became like this. I was a zombie. I was just so lost in the misery of my suffering as I perceived it. And the more you tell yourself, I'm trapped, I can't get out of it, the more miserable you become, because your heart and soul, your spirit is going to try and teach you, and your soul is struggling to break through and say, you can see something differently. But when you see the same routines going on outside of your body, as it were, day in, day out, you're worn down, you're totally exhausted. And I'm going to flip this back over to men. I've had patients and clients, who are men, and they've come to me that their women actually beat them up. Like he said he was sleeping, and next thing you know, she's slapping his face because he was sleeping. She wanted him up and out doing something, and he's not a violent person, so that at all. So it was a shock to his system, and now he couldn't sleep because he thought anytime he falls asleep, she's going to hit him, because it happened more than once. And her rage was coming from what do you call it? Bipolar. And they didn't know that even bipolar was going on with his wives. Neither of them knew. So eventually he got some counseling with me and other things. We got a big improvement. But when you're in a relationship and say the bipolar person is sweet and lovely and looking at my flowers behind, oh, I love these flowers, and then you say something about something else, and next thing you know, they've got that vase and they're hitting you over the head with it. Yeah. They flip so fast that you don't know it's coming. And this particular man was in a wife who had this kind of problem, and she in her mind, because she thought he's a man and he could beat her up, so the only time she could beat him up was when he was sleeping. These silly little thoughts are there in our brain box, and in that moment of imbalance in our emotions, we become toxic. We can't help it. because we're looking for a defense mode where something is going to give us comfort and support and that we can feel safe. So, my generation went through 2 or 3 marriages before we started to realize what marriage was about. And as you mentioned earlier, you're the child of a marriage where you ran away from home because things weren't right. I wanted to run away from home when I was 18. I couldn't, so I lost myself in nursing, weekends, nights, get the extra hours in for school, hands-on and all that, and then go into it, from 18 until I was 21. And all these things were about, I'm going to be independent. And the minute I got pregnant, where was my independence? It went out the window. But when I thought about it later, I never was independent. I hadn't learned to be independent. It took me coming to the States, being honest, to learn to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you too, coming here? There was more here. There was more help. There was,
there was, but I was also alone too, but for another circumstance as well. So, but yeah, when I finally put my foot down and said, you know what, I don't want to be controlled. Like, I started to realize that I wasn't living for me at all. I was living for other people. I just want to cut myself here because or cut myself off from conversation because John is on the chat here, and he said once listening dies between 2 people, most especially the egotistic loses that attribute of listening. Abuse is the next option. Most abusive people fear to own their mistakes and to choose their use their physical strength to suppress voices of peace. I will say, which is where I read that, and then you said something. I can't remember what it was now, but and I'm like going, hang on. So how many of us have as a victim have the guilt trip because we're so used to being abused, and we don't know any way out because we fear of either the repercussions or the disappointment or the failure that comes with I can't have a relationship with somebody without anything happening.
Well, when you say relationships, let me go further away with that. For example, when I was nursing, the matron who was in charge of all the nurses decided she didn't like me and picked on me all the time. Mm-hmm. I won't go into all the boring stories, but one of the rules was that your apron, which was the old-fashioned apron those days, should not be longer than your dress. Nobody said about it should be a little bit shorter than your dress. I'm coming down, I just got the new uniform, and you have to go to tailors and get it assessed and blah, blah, blah. And I'm on my way, and matron sees me, yells at me, has me over, dresses me down in front of all the other nurses, telling me that I'm not dressed properly because my apron is an inch above my dress. I open my mouth to try and say to her, whatever, I'm on my way to the dressmaker, was wearing them because they're all new, and I opened my mouth to say, but, and she just let rip, you do not answer me, you do not, I'm in charge of you. She went on like this. I cried all the way to the dressmaker to have my hand put up, which I could have done myself. But there was a rule, you can't alter your dress yourself. See, so it's not just marriages, okay? You could be at work and be abused like I was there, yeah. And so this gentleman, who's writing in about that, he's talking about where you actually, I was in bonding with this woman, she was picking on me, so thank you, it was John, was it? Thank you for telling us that, and the point that we're talking about, that well-known relationships over elongated times, as we were talking about our marriages, you build it up, and there's so many bits and pieces that come together, and eventually you're in a raging mood and you can't help it, you just want to hear it out. But that matron, she probably had an argument with the doctors or something, and she wanted to have it out of her. So rather than, you know, do whatever she needed to do, she used me as her battering ram, you know, to hit and hit and hit. And it wasn't the only time. In fact, over the year that I was in that hospital, she picked on me every month. And that is an unhealthy thing. And I'm sure there's many people who are working jobs where they're frightened, you know, the boss is hanging over their shoulders, watching them, commenting that they haven't you got that answered? Haven't you got that done yet? You should have got that done half an hour ago. I'm waiting. And then they come in with, say, this project has to be done right now, and then all these intense looks. And then, so they work, they stay late, work overnight, put it on the desk in the morning. Oh, this has been cancelled. Don't worry about it. No sorries, no, you know, well, maybe we can use it in a different format for something else. No integration. I've had so many people come to me in work scenarios over the years for counseling because they are driven and never appreciated, and they don't get enough money for the job they're doing, and they're scared to leave because there may not be another job, or it might be a worse job, and they're rationalizing all this stuff, and they're saying, I'm at my wit's end. I'm psychologically lost. So it's not just people who are physically together in terms of emotion. It could be a stranger that picks on you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had strangers pick on you?
Yeah.
Got what story?
Well, this is just people that you've been in the wrong place at the right. I don't know if that's the right time, but wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, and you've just irked them off. They could have had an argument with somebody else 5 minutes prior, and you would never have known about it. But now it's turned into a complete toxic meetup. Unfortunately, that's, you know, people get. We're in a society now that is so burdened by the pandemic, I should say, and so our emotions are just like a light bulb switch that they can flick just like that. And when we meet strangers, and when we meet, there may be quite a few out there that are completely friendly, and they're completely non-judgmental, they're completely kind. But then there's a lot of us are actually quite irked. We're quite agitated. We're quite all over the place because we're lost and traumatized ourselves by the current situation. Then we're irked by other people because they're irked, and it just becomes a tumbleweed effect.
And, you know, I could give you 101 things where throughout my life someone's been nasty to me, and I'm a very soft person, so I'm easily upset. But, you know, in the acting profession, and I've read many famous people, and I've had them come to me, and I knew, because I've done a lot of acting as well myself in my life, and, you know, extra work and stage work and modeling and whatever. It was the same there, you know. Come on, hurry up. You've got to get this change cloth. You've got to be here. You've got to be there. And you're fiddling around. You're trying to get everything right. And you've got to be ready to rush off and walk down that gangplank. And they tell you, we're playing some music. It's like, I just been turned myself inside, upside down, backwards. And they knew there was an intro. Mm-hmm. But they're carrying on like there isn't. Or, you know, like you're in a production, you know, and you know where your position is. You've got to stand there because everybody's staged on a live production, and you got to stand there. And I remember standing exactly on my mark and doing exactly what I'm doing, and we're in dress rehearsal, and the director taps really loudly on everything, and he says, "What are you doing over there?" And I'm like, "I'm standing where you told me to stand." He says, "Well, if I told you to stand there, don't take any notice of me. Go and stand over there." That set me crying. I was 19, you know, but I mean, 19, what do you know? Because I've been a good girl and I'm being told off for his mistake. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that goes on. We want people to hear that someone makes a mistake and blames you, and you're set there because some control issue is going on around you. In any scenario where there's a lot of tension going on, and they pick on someone who looks the likely person who won't fight back,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I was just going to say about we were just talking about overreacting and deflecting. That is basically what it is. Is you're in direct conflict with your own self perception, and of course you're uncomfortable. So you, when you are offered a calculated question, you replace that with criticism, and almost judging. And so yeah, that there's lots of different ways of looking at it, but um the one thing I'm finding so much, very the common denominator in this conversation here is that a lot of this toxicity is resulting in one thing. It is control. And it's like we have to realize that that we aren't pets. We're humans, and we have feelings, and we have emotions, and we have all of that jazz, and we would like to experience each and every single one of us as individuals, but we need to be able to harmonize these relationships and understand them to such a point where we can understand the things that we're talking about right now, and then move into what we can do as a solution. There is people up here on the chat, Margaret, that is talking right now. Veronica, well, actually, go back to John. By the way, John is in Uganda, so and he
Hi,
has
John.
many stories that he could talk about.
Mm.
He said that the most abused people fear to leave the abusive environment because of fearing the public to judge them wrongly. Yet what they are living is more horrible than being judged by the public. Veronica, which is what we were talking about before, Veronica also mentioned that her mother would always rush us as kids, and then then we would get in trouble for making a mess. Her husband was the same way with us, and we could never please them.
Mm. I understand that one very easily, having had 4 boys, and forever saying, make your bed, tidy your room, and so on. What I did when I learned the hard way, don't yell and scream because it got nothing done, was to integrate a story and of course use my psychological and all the stuff I'd studied, to get through it all and get through it with them. But if you haven't had that kind of background, you're at loss and you're just flailing around, yelling and screaming. I mean, I remember running around following my kids with a wooden spoon or a spatula to smack their butts, but I never ever got them because they were always faster than me, and I was a monster, and I used to go upstairs in my bedroom and cry that I had to do that, because it didn't matter what I shouted, yelled, screamed. Oh, Mum's just doing her yelling thing. And the kids don't understand that Dad's doing what he shouldn't be doing, and so on. So, that's a burden. And flip it the other way for the men. They're coming home and they're finding their wives. I got migraine. I'm in bed for 4 days or whatever, dealing with all of this. And then they have to take over and cook and do for the kids, and so they do get an insight into what the woman's putting up with. But there's been an interesting switch over the last 20 years where the men have stayed home and been mummy, and mummy has gone to work and become daddy, the switch of the roles. And I thought that was a wonderful opportunity for each to understand one another. And of course, years ago, there was that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Bradshaw, I think his name was. And he was very right. We were talking about all this in England as well. In the 60s and 70s, trying to get, because women did so much during the war, that they'd come out of their box, as it were, but they weren't allowed to flourish. We still were limited by wages and things like that. But today there's no excuse, and now we're in the Aquarian age, and I've spent a lot of time on all my shows over the last 10, 15 years I've been doing it, talking about how we can see a different point of view. You can learn a lot in those shows. But the bottom line is we all need someone to bounce off. And if you've got no one, like I would go to my mum and dad and say, oh, this and this, and they say, Margaret, you have to go back and suffer. For the sake of the kids, you must go back and suffer. And suffer I did, and it was worse, and I was breaking down, and I couldn't go to them. They had no room for me and two kids, in those days. But today, women are not even bothering to get married. They're going to the sperm bank and getting a baby with their friends, whether they're gay or not, doesn't come into it. It's just I want to have a baby and I don't want to have an issue with a partner. So I'll just do that on my own and start rearing, and I've been doing a lot of research in myself with single parents. And you know what? They seem to be more stable, the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got something to say about that.
I was going to agree with you. I can tell you now that I can agree with you, because I mean, yes, I will say, hold that thought. What are you doing?
You can't hear.
Yeah, this is what it's like, ladies and gentlemen, to be a single mother and have children who actually do come in. Come here.
Come and say hello.
Come and say hello. You say hello.
Hi. He's gorgeous.
But for those who don't know, that this is my son Daryl, and he's my youngest little boy. And so this is what I strive at home while I'm working and doing live shows and all of that. My boys are either in school or they are sitting quietly doing their thing while mummy's doing my thing. And so they understand that mummy is a working mummy, and they know what to do.
Ooh.
Every single night, I put them to bed and they go, what do I say? I love you.
I love him.
Yeah. So, people listening, today the world's changed. Like, for example, when I was young, don't go out without any makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I go out, I've got makeup on today because I'll be doing other shows as well. But, generally I don't wear makeup at home, going out and about or whatever. And I'm happy to do that, and especially 122 degrees, which we have right now in Arizona. But the bottom line is, women were told you have to look beautiful back when, and you had to have a certain style. And then we got this whole, modeling thing, which I was dragged into for a bit. And then, I got past that. And then by the time somewhere in my 30s to 50s, there was a lot of issues about being slim, and I knew Twiggy, we were in the same boats during those times, and I really hold my hands high for her, because she was a real Cockney. Hey, mate, what cut of tea now? and nobody could understand her. We were British. And her husband just taught her, and she was a vehicle. But look what happened. She felt abused, the way it went, because men were controlling you. And now I've got to flip it, because I think women are controlling men. Think about that one for a minute.
I agree with that.
well, we've learned to stand on our own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we've learned to make ourselves an income. We've learned to buy a house on our own with one wage. Okay, we've learned a lot of things in the man's world. Okay, now I'm going to make you laugh, but I hope you'll see it as wonderful. I met a man who lived in Hackney in London, and he had a store, and he used to sit there knitting. And the women used to come in and say, I pay him to knit them a sweater, because you couldn't buy them off the peg like you can today. Okay. And so one day I was talking to him, I said, wow, you're really good at making sweaters and stuff. He said, yeah, but he said, what about this? He was embroidering. All right. And I said to him, what made you want to do this? He said, it's relaxing. Now, my point of bringing that up is I see it, most families are so busy working, bringing in food from outside, and they're so tired, they're just crashing on the sofa once even the kids fall asleep with them or whatever. Everybody's so tired. Nobody's able to do any crafts.
Mm-hmm.
And we need those crafts, sewing, even if you did a jigsaw puzzle or a crossword puzzle. It's time that the brain calms down. It's single-minded.
We have not. We have, see, back in my days, we were doing home economics and we were learning all of that. But and this is why I find it really, really interesting, is that the 80s era was like the transition between the old traditional ways and the incoming of the new traditional ways. And so 80s children like me have been taught about all of these things. It's the traditional, mixing in the old with the new. But then like I get from people, and I'm not saying this includes everybody, it's just I've noticed a trend. But there are children that are born in the generations from the 90s onwards that have absolutely no idea how to cook. They have no idea how to sew, even to patch up a hole in a pair of pants or something like that, or do a simple hemline. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to do. I mean, gone are the days of patchwork quilting. Does anybody know how to do that either? I certainly was taught that. That's uniquely American, and I'm Australian. Well, I got taught in Australia. I got taught how to make my own clothes. I got taught how to fix a busted pipe in a kitchen. I got taught how to look after farm animals, obviously because I lived in the country, but that's a little bit different. And farming and or husbandry of animals, even if they are on a farm, also equates to people who look after pets. It doesn't have to be farm animals. I mean, what about a pet?
But some people even abuse the animals. Let's put that in here because they haven't got an adult to yell at, or they'll yell, kick the dog, or whatever. And we've got such a lot of animals that are being rescued all the time, thank God, by people now. But back, I remember just 10 years ago in this country, people, the pounds were pleading with us people to adopt an animal because I had so many that have been abused in the big cities. And the old idea was you get an animal, it's going to comfort you and you won't have all this pain, and the dog loves you, so they'll sit in your lap and you'll feel wonderful. Well, that's partly why people are buying these animals, even a tortoise, it didn't matter what it was. And then they found that all these people had bought these animals supposedly instead of a husband or wife, got an animal now, and of course the animal can't talk to them, and they're dealing with their own inner shit. I use that word because that's what it is. So different, emotion, mentally, physically, spiritually, practically. And so here's the poor dog minding its own business in its pot, asleep, wherever. Whack! Or stick it outside, never feed it. Don't want to bother with it. We can be very cruel humans, and we don't even know we're being cruel because we're so self-centered on our own pain.
I'm going to go back to the comments over here because we are getting lots of comments coming through.
That's nice.
We may have a call in very soon too, so we'll see. Veronica says we were not allowed to go to the grocery store or the doctor without getting dressed up nicely. We could not wear sweats, etc. We had to have our own hair done out of our face, etc., etc. Putting it up.
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, that's partly why I wear my hair up all the time. I'm used to putting it up in the bun. But and then she said we made macrams. I'm not sure of that macrams. And quilts and had board games. I helped with my father with the yard and mechanics on vehicles. Yeah, I was brought up that way as well. I will say. She said that her mother taught me to cook, clean, dance, and macrame.
Mm.
I,
I bet she's the older generation too.
I think she's the 50s. I,
Mm.
I
Because yeah, had to be my kid's age or as old as me because that was the last of that period. Yeah.
And John just said the 90s generation is finding it hard to be involved in constructive traditions for domestic living. They have prepared to think that they can only live by smartphones, etc., not learning how to look after animals and doing craft, etc. Uh,
Mm.
Veronica just said macrame, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, was used for plant potting.
Oh, crema. I had it and I lost it. Making out of ropes and strings, and you put your plants in it. Macrame.
There you go.
Macrame.
And
Okay. Yeah, we learned that too.
Veronica just said she was born in 1971, so she's 50 years old.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for telling us your secret. Yeah, well, every woman's supposed to have a secret about her age, right?
Well, see, that's the thing is that a lot of people here, people who know me, obviously you know me, but you keep telling me, how do you get your photos so good? Are you using something for her? Why do you look like this?
Well, she's pretty on every one of them.
Gentlemen, I am not wearing currently right now. I may have a light on me, but I do not wear makeup, and very rarely do I wear makeup. And rarely do I ever do anything with my hair. And no, there is no filters on any of the photos that I take.
Very pretty, pretty. You really are. Okay. I admit I wear makeup when I come online because I'm so used to being in the public for so many years. Being honest, I've been in the public eye all over Europe since I was 21, and here in Japan, in Egypt, and all the different countries I've been to. So you have to look, But as soon as I'm done, off it all comes.
And see with the I present myself, but I don't over make and present myself. And so I'm not used to this whole all of the girls that are out there right now, they put so much makeup on. It's like, can I see your eyes? Do you have any beauty? What is underneath that? All that layer cake is it's it's astounding what is out there. And and in essence of what this topic is all about tonight, you are abusing yourself at that point.
Yeah, if you're overworking your beauty, then you're not happy camper. It's there. I mean, once you go out that door, like you've got no makeup on, you don't even realize you've got no makeup on because you're not thinking about how your face looks. And the people you meet, they don't know you if they've never met you before. So they're not comparing what you look like with it before and after and all that kind of thing. But there's this whole thing coming back from the movies and things like that, because I was in all that you have to dress up to be seen. And I'm actually working because now my wrinkles and things are coming. I'm actually working on saying it's okay to come on that line and not wear any makeup at all, because I have to admit I'm 79. And I don't like that. Still working on that.
You don't have wrinkles. It's fine. You can admit it. You don't have wrinkles.
Well, I see them. You don't need a magnifying glass, let me put it that way.
The very definition of toxic and the toxicity that comes with the image that is portrayed out there in the movies and the TV, and how men presume to, well, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say that men actually like us. There are very, very, very many men out there that like us the way we are, with no makeup and messy. And
Now, but back then, when my ex-husband used to go to my first husband, he used to go to the closet and pull out the frock or whatever I was going to wear. He would tell me what to wear. And if I said I didn't want to wear that, yeah, that was, one of the things when you've had people around you. My own father was very dominant too, so he was cruel in yelling and screaming at me and hitting me, but he was also loving and attentive and nurturing and supportive, so I never knew which way the cookie would crumble. That's another kind of toxic relationship. He was dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder coming back from the war, and my mother had that because we were bombed every night, so we were post-traumatic stress disorder family. And into this world comes my sister, who's had none of that war, and to this day she is entirely different in her will and her coding, in that she's a healer, she's a psychic, she does, you're going to get a letter next week kind of readings, and she's accurate. But the bottom line is she never got into manipulating any one of us in the family. But guess what? I saw it when she got married the first time. So it was there, but it takes my point of this is it takes someone to bring it out in you. Frustration, unreliability, there's a whole list of things it could be that turns the person who becomes aggressive to become violent or do whatever they're going to do relative to putting up with it for so long that you just lose it. And I admit that, I probably pressed a few buttons in those first two marriages, because you're maturing, you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, and there's like I said, there's I got to with me, I got to a point where I'm like, now I'm recognizing that I am being abused. Enough's enough.
Once you get it, you realize, and there's no way, you're down on the floor, there's nowhere else to go. It can't be any worse than being on the floor, as it were, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. You're 1,000 pieces, you're just shattered. And I remember clearly how it's felt before these pills that the doctor put me on were killing me. And the bottom line was, I didn't care about my children. I didn't care, whether my house was not. I didn't care about anything. My brain was numb from all that aggression that I was dealing with around me. And you got to remember, it wasn't only that. I'm still a minister. I'm still out there with my congregation. I'm still out there going to hospitals when they call me out in the middle of the night because so-and-so's drunk in the ER or something, So there wasn't any Margaret, okay? And I see that in a lot of women, even today, there's no them. It's all about the kids, the school, the bit work they're doing, the husband's illness, diseases, or whatever, and they're saying, it's fine, I'm managing, but you can see their soul is broken. And I've seen it in the men too. It's the world has changed so much. I think men and women are equal now if they just realized it and start working side by side instead of at one another.
Yeah, exactly. And John just said it's unfortunate that people have grown up from toxic families end up marrying people that haven't lived in toxic families. It creates a total mess.
Yeah, when you've been, I've seen that too many times. When you've been into a family that, like, I'll give you an example in England that was really amazing. The Mormons were really happy, okay, because they had that concept of unity, and there was support through the church as well and stuff. And into that came a person I knew who was smoking cigars. They don't smoke, by the way, so you're going to see the difference. Smoking cigars, and was, for some reason, the daughter of one of these people had taken to him and brought him home. And the end result was he upset the apple cart because he just didn't know their religion. He didn't know anything about them. And they came to me and said, how do we get him out? Because the Mormons take people in, how do we get him out? Because they didn't know how to send someone away. So there are people like that in marriages, work, wherever it is, that they don't know how to say, no, the buck stops here, tough love.
Yeah. And but the other thing is too is that it really depends on about whether you are codependent and you're still codependent on that person. The other thing I want to mention too here is if you've been in a complete toxic relationship, there is such thing called what is called trauma bonding. That trauma bonding is when you're so heavily attached to a toxic person that you're willing to maintain a relationship even at the expense of yourself for the few and far between highs. And so what happens is your brain gets highly addicted to the habitual ups and downs of the oxytocin, dopamine, norepinephrine,
All those horrid drugs.
all of
Yeah,
those little endorphins and all that jazz that we have
yeah, in our brain box.
say half of these words, so just bear with me.
Mm.
But that even when the relationship actually ends with all of that happening within your brain, you still seek and you still crave the person who you are toxic with, or you become obsessive with them, or you seek the same people out in order to get your fix. So the victim then becomes the almost they become toxic themselves, and they keep on with the that's how that, I mean, we've all heard the form of karmic relationships. It's almost like that. We keep repeating the same thing over and over again because we're looking for our fix. We become so obsessed with what we received, even though it may have hurt us, it may have been detrimental to our health and our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, that the loss of the love that was received because of the attachment makes you crave it even more. It's like a highly addictive, hardcore drug, and you become dependent on it in the same way that a heroin addict would. And so, if and when you can't see it for what it is, then you'll never be able to see your way out of any topic.
You can't see yourself in it. You know, when you're in that situation, your brain, your eye, everything is out there waiting for a happening, good or bad, that you can suck into yourself and say, that validates I'm married, or validates I'm working this job, or whatever it is. And we've been training ourselves to expect the rough with the smooth, because that is life. You know, somebody asked me recently, if we keep ascending, you know, we're all going to be up here. What's down here? And as I said in my book, The Light Side of the Oneness, those at the top are watching us down here at the bottom, and they're descending. Oh, she's already, thank you. They're descending, we're ascending. Now, this is going on in the oneness all the time. And guess where they meet in our universe? Earth. So we've got people who are very spiritual and intuitive and instinctive. They're teachers, healers, whatever they are now. But back when I was a young woman, thank you for showing those. When I was a young woman, that dark side, that was the way. You know, everything was in the dark and everything was made excuses of and about and blaming the dark. Now we're into doing this. People are starting to say, I'm seeking the light and I'm seeking master teachers, but the master teachers are coming down into embodiment to teach and to lift those who are lower up. And those who are already in the oneness are climbing up to be higher master teachers. So this energy is always going on. Now let's bring it down into a marriage. I love you. I'm going to share all that I am with you, and I'm going to give you my heart and soul and all my positives, right? You're an angel because I love you and I married you. And suddenly he's not the angel or she's not the angel because she's turned into the monster over something stupid like she wanted to, or he wanted to spend $100 on a new TV. And it's like that. The next thing I know, they're on my doorstep. We're going to get divorced. Now, I've seen this in gay couples too. They've been married. They're coming to me and telling me they get to that threat motion. They say, that's it. I've had enough. I want a divorce. And they get all these papers and they come over and they, there it is. And the bottom line, sign this decree nicely. And they call me up. I know, I never wanted this. Why did I start this? Why did I want to have a divorce? And I said, well, you answer me. Well, I wanted attention. Why did you want attention? Because she's not giving me, or he's not giving me what I want. Well, what did you want? Well, actually, now I realize I don't want it. So sometimes we have to go through this whole hardship to realize just how wrong we are in our expectations of life in general. And it's because we've listened, unfortunately, to my generation, the fixed ones, who have said rules are rules, there's no sidebar, okay, you're stuck with this is what you have to do. And they brought their kids up with that, and the religion is behind them. There's no philosophy, it's religion. God says, if you don't do your Muslim thing, if you don't do your Jewish thing, if you don't do your Christian thing, you are in hell when you die.
I'm going to hell anyway, so it doesn't bother me.
But the bottom line, but the bottom line is what is hell? We're here in it. We're in it already. So, you know, I've just been watching War of the Worlds. I've watched 5 episodes, and it's in color. And they've got commentary now. They got professors who are way younger and looked into what all the generals are. So interesting, because in those wartime, for even 10 years after, it was all secret. MI5, MI6 and whatever, and Cold War and whatever. And so don't talk about anything. I mean, even, I remember taking a filing job, you know, old-fashioned folders and stuff like that. And on the DC, I had to stamp confidential. And guess what? It was like ordering 100 screws from Africa. Why would that be confidential? How would someone use screws to fight a war? Well, if you are going to go to war, we don't want the enemy to know we've got 100 screws stored away that can be used to build a bomb.
Yeah.
That was still very much alive. Here we are now in this Aquarian age, and it's a whole new thing. I hope people will listen to that show I did. What's it called? The Great Piscean Age, the Great Aquarian Age, 3,500 years of Piscean Age, and now we're in the titty bit in the Great Aquarian Age. You know, the bottom line is that we've got to listen, talk about, integrate the talk, work together to rebuild our structures. You know, in our country, every country has got to do this. But right now, everyone's saying they're doing the same as marriages. We don't know how to build something, or we don't have the goods to build something. Well, let's take a leaf out the Romans and the Greeks. They found a way wherever they went, didn't they? They pulled the people in, they gave them work, they gave them food, they made their country richer. We have to do the same here. And Ray Cloud said that through me in the back of the book, Journey into an Unknown World, The Way to Oneness Revisited. I included some of the channelings that I'd done ages before. And Ray Cloud was saying America is proud to go to the moon first. We should be proud to rebuild this country first. What do you think about that? Who's saying their marriage is about giving back to culture? Who's got a marriage that people are actually working, listening to one another, not always agreeing, but listening and working it out? They're the models these kids need to see, not us old folks arguing about whether our boat is bigger than your boat.
But it is. According to the latest statistics in economics.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of problems and issues, and I think that with the generations and that are, going through the times right now, we're just so conflicted because it's like one generation is very outspoken, the next generation's just in between the two generations, and the other generation just won't talk about it, but they do have heavily conflicted and very, very hell bent, it's my way or the highway kind of opinions.
And so that's a generation gap, but then you mix in the religions and you mix in the cultures and the colors of us, whatever we are. We're one human race, but nobody gets it yet. I'm praying I live to see that.
I don't think we will. I mean, I know that last time I spoke to you, you said that there will probably be at least
I know.
generations of change, and that is at least about 100 years away.
I know I said that, and that's true, because that's what Spirit said to me. But I still, me, Margaret, hope that I'll live to see at least, no more I'm black, or I'm Chinese, or I'm yellow. Who cares? Just say I'm Chinese American, I'm British American, I'm Australian American, I'm German American. If you must, we don't have to hear what color our skin is.
No, and I was never brought up that way either. The color of my skin. You'll always hear me talk about.
And it's not done in England either.
No, it's the United States is all about race.
Yeah, I saw a lot of shows. I was just watching a few catch-up shows on the weekend. I was flipping channels, and every one of them was about, we got the new holiday. Was it Junie Teens or something? It's really a funny name that hasn't stuck with me because I can't relate to it, even though I know about all the slavery. But everything that we're doing, that we're bringing up about how the Chinese were abused, how the Japanese were abused during the war, how the Swedish and people were abused when they first came over because they sounded funny. You go back through history, to the dawn of time, there is always abuse, and we have to learn to not abuse one another. And the only way we're going to do it is stop thinking you're right and start thinking, what's this person got to say? Yes. I'm open-minded, at least that much, and heartfelt to sit here and try and understand.
And that's exactly why I just said, we have this whole big disparity of mixed opinions and traditions and religion and everything else. It's like one big hot mess. I will say that just right now we do have a call-in guest. She's going to pop in about 2 seconds. She's the one that's been talking in the chat. Welcome, Veronica.
Hello. Hey, how is everyone? Hi, Miss Margaret.
Hi, thank you for calling in. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Yeah.
A lot. It kind of was intriguing to listen to y'all. I was at the gym. So what it is it's been, I don't know, just triggering a lot of what you were saying. I thought it was normal for me to, have to wear the makeup every day, dress up. I had to have my hair like really like in a little ponytail, and like if we had bangs, they had to be done. I couldn't wear my hair down, and I love to wear my hair down. So when my daughter was born, and another thing, we couldn't cut our hair. When my daughter was little, I would let her wear her hair as messy as she wanted. She didn't want to wear dresses. We always had to be in frickin' dresses and heels. And so I would let her wear whatever she wanted. And of course, I had backlash from my mother and family, but I didn't care. Another thing that was really triggering that I was remembering is that when we were like 12 years old, 10, I think it was 10 or 12, my mother had us, I'm the oldest, she had us wear belts to make our waist. I know you were saying, that we shouldn't say I'm this, I'm that, but yeah, I'm German on both sides. I'm not Hispanic. I was born in Mexico. I'm German, French, Italian, Spanish. So on the Italian Spanish side, it just seemed like we had to be perfect. We had to have that skinny waist. We couldn't be fat. My mom had this body dysphoria thing, and to this day, I wear 2 girdles.
Oh my dear.
Um,
Throw them away right away.
I've lost 105 pounds now. I was weighing 271 because I ended up shooting myself. I was a cop. I was in the military and I was married to a cop. And my long story short is I ended up killing myself because I was hearing these things tell me, kill yourself. You're not worth it. Your husband doesn't love you anyway. He's cheating. So it's been a long, long recovery. For 9 years, I was getting epidural shots. I was on psych meds.
Can I interrupt you just for 1 second?
Yes.
You're very psychic.
Yeah, I am.
And you had your spirit guides are talking to me. You had earthbound spirits around you, a lot of them. You were like fighting in the dark with negative spirits that have died and they haven't gone to heaven. And in your death scenario, they were able to use you to lift them away from you. So that's why it happened. I had to explain that to you. It's not always what we think here on this earth. Sometimes we are used to save some people, and that's so you weren't wasting time. You're doing some good work. They want you to know that. I'm almost crying.
Thank you. That explains a lot. If you don't want me just telling you the near-death experience, what it is.
No, you can tell it. I'm just
so
saying
thank you, because for the longest time, I didn't know like why well, I know why I'm here now. I'm a super soldier and I'm here for the missions and shit like that. Excuse my language, but they didn't want me to leave, blah, 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 saving the children, all this stuff that we got to do, saving Earth. I mean, it's the programs, that I was using since I was 1 year and 8 months that I found out later. But anyway, through the awakening and all that. So when I did end up doing that, I ended up in the hospital for a month and a half. I died for 3 days. And what I saw was I got up in my hospital gown and I'm like, what the hell are all these things on the floor and on my monitors? They were cut in half. They were like blue, charcoal, black in color. They all looked the same. They had yellow eyes, jagged black haircut, the same short haircut. And I was like, I got to get out of here, So I started like stepping over them. And I was going to the door because the doorway had a light around it. And I said, what the hell am I doing here? So I opened the door. And then once I came back to the room, I was still in my hospital gown. The entities were gone. And then in the corner to my left was my father. He committed suicide when I was 13. And so I begged him and I cried. I said, I want to stay here with you. I don't want to go back, And I cried and cried. She's like, no, in Spanish, she said, you have to go back and you have 2 kids that love you. So you got to finish your mission. And it was the hardest thing for me to do is to come back.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah, but it's been tough. And as far as what do you call relationships, I was listening to the relationship part. Like now, if I just see like one red flag, I'll run. I become a runner. So literally, not only running outside, but I will run. If there is one red flag that reminds me of the trauma that I went through with my ex-husband and the other partner that I had, forget about it. I got to take care of my inner child. I will do whatever it takes. I was supposed to move out of town. I just came back, Katie knows. For 2 weeks, we were looking for a house, this supposed divine counterpart twin flame, and he ended up being the enemy. We'll talk about that later in my channel. But so I couldn't leave my kids either. Like, I know they're grown, but I just, as a mom, I understand if they leave me when they're older because they get married or whatever. But me as a mom, I cannot leave them. They were already going to lose me when all this crap happened. They were very little. So now it's like, it's been a challenge, Dr. Margaret, or Reverend Margaret.
Well, yeah, you can call me Margaret. I'm actually, some people call me Professor Margaret, some call me Dr. Margaret, some call me Margaret, some call me RBC. I mean, I answer to anyone.
Some call your mom.
But let me come back to you though. Going through the death scenario, getting the earthbounds away from you was a big lesson. That was very important. And right now, what your spirit guides are saying, you're going through, you've got a new growth. You're in a new cycle now. And so you're not looking, how can I say this? Give it to me. Okay. You're looking like a dice, and you're looking at the number 5 on it. Flip it over. What's on the other side from 5? Okay. And so, you know, I'm not good at math, so but I get the pictures when I tell you what they are. It's like everything that you've focused on is your foundation stone. Flip it over and stand on it and say, I know what's underneath me. This is my base now. And then go into really understanding your psyche and study that. I have a book called Expanding Images with the Omni card. It teaches you everything in theory. And then the back card, you play with the card, which is a colored picture. You can even copy it and onto a card so you can laminate it. It's what my students do. But you'll be amazed how you'll be able to focus with that in one day once you've read the text, and be able to read anyone you meet. You'll know immediately that person's going to manipulate me, that person's going to be nice to me, just by the way, what you've learned and how you empathize and sympathize with your energies of your 5 bodies. It teaches you all that. You're ready for that. And you've got a great soul. You're what we call mature soul ascending into an old soul. It's thousands and thousands. You don't worry about time as far as Earth is concerned. But what it means is a mature soul has gone past all the lessons, and you're practicing now with your knowledge and wisdom here on the planet. I'm afraid I'm ancient. but you know, that doesn't make me any different here on Earth. You know, we like I said, we're doing this all the time. So I'm on my way down, you're on your way up, you know, and we meet, you see, and we do good work. And that's what the world is like. And everything that's come from the Piscean age has taught us what not to do for 3,500 years. Conquer, dominate, take people's stuff, say it's mine, fight over it, you know, that's going. Mm-hmm. The 200, was it, I can never remember it, 2,000, it's not quite as many as 3,500 because we're getting further away, the planets are moving, everything's changing. And so it won't be as long as the 3,500. But the bottom line here is, this is about really centering ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, and then being able to say to someone, who are you? I'd like to know you. And sit and listen to them tell their life story and not interject once. I mean, Katie and I used to one another. So she says something and I bounce off her and vice versa. That's television, that's conversation. But for the new age, we have to be able to sit there and, you know, I used to say to my husband, because he'd want to interject every sentence, I'd say, write it down. So when you're listening to someone, if you have an important question about it, don't chip in there. Get the full picture, write the question down and go back to it later, which is what you would do in school anyway. You're told in school, don't keep putting your hand up, you know, write down, or we'll go on the computer and look, you know. So this is the new way for people to find partners. And I already know that I see my grandchildren who are 18 and older in relationships, and I see them repeating some of the things that their father and mother did and my father and mother did. So it's not out of them, you see, it's in the RNA. So we have to make a conscious desire to listen, even if they're shouting at you. It's hard.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I totally do. I was the one that would always get in trouble with the other kids in school because I was always raising my hand. I always needed to know everything. And to this day, and I do write things down. The one thing that I am always asking myself, why am I feeling like this? Or why this, why that? And you're right. I am a psychic medium. I'm a clear channel. I see the future. And it's so hard with having PTSD, chronic PTSD, to not be able to sleep. So all I do is just pretty much think all night and ask myself questions.
I know that too, because me being a war baby and bombed every night, I've been unable to sleep since birth, but I do take sulpedium, and or I'll smoke a little bit of marijuana on and off. And people, years ago, people would say you're judging, you should be doing that. But hey, the flower power, all the things that happened broke that down. And then they went mad and they overdid it, And it's like now, I channeled from spirit years ago all the different stuff that marijuana would do, and it was called cannabis then in my world. And I didn't even know what cannabis was. I was that naive. And I had to go up and listen to the recording, and everything that Spirit said, and this is in the 60s, everything that Spirit said has come true about marijuana now. CBD and all this, how they've broken it now. And this is the medicine of the future. But until the pharmaceutical organizations realize it, we're stuck with all this stuff that kills us. You've got a heart trouble, have this pill and that kills your kidneys, that kills your liver, and so on and so forth. And so, I wrote this book, channeled book from COVID, and Katie can't even get it up because it's got the word on the cover of what it is, a virus. So there are people out there that are scared stiff, who are blocking us who have insight and inspiration that can help the world, because they want the old style and the old ways. And you coming through the police and the army, you know what that's like. You can't speak your mind, and
Definitely.
yeah. So you're on a change to find the pathway you want to go. We can always talk about that privately. We don't do things like that in public. And allow yourself to be you. That's the most important thing.
Actually, I do. See, that's the thing. I am so free, so much free now, because I actually let myself be me. It's just that sometimes I still have to work on the body dysphoria thing, this thingy, whatever it's called. Now I've lost so much weight that I have loose skin under my arms, even though I work out 3 hours a day, 4 times a week.
Well, your glandular
Now I'm
system.
like,
Do your glandular system. It's off whack. Okay, we can talk another time. I don't want to be personal.
Yeah.
With you.
No. I don't. I'm an open book. Everybody knows me on my channel. I'm not gonna hide. It's called Unchained Hearts. I don't hide under masks. I'm me. But yeah, so a thing that I did was, I activated my DNA and I stopped taking all the medication. It's been 3 years. They had me on a CPAP machine. I threw it away. So yeah, thank you for your time. I am going to go for now to give another person an opportunity, but I really appreciate you and Katie, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you for chatting with us. We appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Margaret, if you don't know Veronica, Veronica actually has a show on Soma Fusion Media. Her show airs at 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, we women got to stick together.
Yes, we do. We'll see you guys later. I love you guys, and I will be listening right now.
Have a nice day.
So, you too.
Okay, so actually, I mean, where is she? She would be in the day or night time?
She's in Arizona.
Oh, so she's up the road from me. Oh, I didn't know that. That's good.
She's in Arizona.
Okay. So she's an example. We need that, glad she came on, because she's an example of someone who has gone through all that suffering and taken herself to the death point, gone through the out-of-body experience, knows her spirit exists, and has come back with a purpose. And I wish we didn't have to go to be dead before we realize that we can do something in this world to help people.
I said the same thing, is that when I had my rude awakening, that was when I had my incident, my last toxic incident, when I didn't know whether I was going to die or not. I was in a state of panic. I was in a state of fear, to the point where I thought I was going to die. So, and then I got kicked up the butt, so to speak. And here I am today.
Well, when you're completely, and I'm speaking now to the people listening in, when you're really, really depressed, sorry, my throat chakra again, everyone, I'm still clearing. I've been doing a lot of and coughing and sneezing. This is all the throat chakra, see. When I think about something in the past, I was in, just to give an example for people, because I want to understand how it works, I was in the 99-cent store getting an artichoke. And I thought, oh, great, this is an artichoke, only $1. And immediately I started coughing because I was doing the pauper consciousness. See, I'm only spending $1, and I catch it because I'm aware of what I'm doing now. I'm getting rid of all those, things where I'm talking money, because that's a main thing. And many couples argue over money, and it destroys their relationship, the materialism of life, and just paying gas bills, electric bills, or putting food on the table, and blame and shame one another for not bringing in enough money, or for not working hard enough, or for not being nurturing enough because they're always exhausted or something in a relationship, or an entire family. So these things that happen, and when we go down to that point, is a death and a rebirth. We may not literally take the wrong things. Like I took pills that were supposed to be to help me stop shaking, and they were heroin based. So I became a heroin junkie because I was popping them to stop the shaking, and I was taking too many. So, that was ignorance, not knowing what was in it. And that's what I think people are doing, have heart, kidneys, and these things. They're taking pills from the pharmaceutical people, and even though the commercials come up with all these side effects, they still take them because they're told this will cure you. The hope, the dream of being saved is there, even with a doctor-personal relationship. I've had people come to me who are the survivors of a dead relative, who want to take the doctors and whoever's involved to court because they over-medicated their dead relatives. Okay, but the bottom line is, why did that dead relative want to take it? Because they thought, as their mother had taught them when they were a little kid, he's got the super duper saving medicine, right? So we have these toxic relationships with people we believe are going to cure us if we're ill. If we've got mental problems, and they're psychologists, they're going to press a hey button magic pill thing or something, and they're suddenly normal. They don't realize just how much hard work it is working with someone who's mentally disturbed as opposed to someone who's emotionally disturbed. It's much easier to deal with someone who's emotionally disturbed than it is mentally.
Yeah.
Well, that you've done all that study.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just gonna say too, so in finding the solution, to any toxic relationship, find the nearest door or seek help from a professional like us. That's what we're here for. And I say find the nearest door in a very, very lighthearted way, because that's what that's the end result. That is when we come to the realization, we come to full awareness that we are, whatever the toxic situation may be is detrimental to our health and well-being and our spiritual self. Then we can see that door, we can walk straight through it. And we don't have to go through that door with feelings of regret or fear of the repercussions, fear of guilt, fear, what, because we get into such a position that, I'm like, well, they can't look after themselves. I'm there to help them. I'm there to save them. I'm there to care for them. We get stuck in that position, but ladies and gentlemen, that's where they want us to be. And so when we come to that realization that, no, I can live for myself, I'm a sovereign, independent being, then we can walk straight through that door. And then after that, that is when the true healing starts to take place. We can professional. We can go see a friend or a family member or whatever the case scenario may be, we can go seek help and we can start to work on our traumas that we have so that we can recover, so that we can become mentally stable, to live our best life,
Mm.
that we can achieve.
Yeah, one of the things that we didn't really touch on, sort of a little bit, but not much, with the Mormons, is when we have mixed religions,
Mhm.
marriages and mixed religions, mixed colors, and so on. I'm going just generally with that. The cultures are so different. And when you fall in love, it's like honeymoon love. You know, it's all one, you know, we'll get around this. We know there's a difference, but we'll get around it. But when you actually get into the throes of it, it becomes conflict. So I always say to people, you really need to know about the family, you know, the ancestry, even if you never meet them, so that you know why your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever they are, friend, work colleague at work, or whatever, you need to know something about them in order to know why they are in some way upsetting you. And like it was very simple. I had a woman who was saying she walked in the office. She's a Japanese, and it's very typical. Japanese can be very cold. And she walked in the office, and no one would say good morning to her, or greet her, or anything. And she felt like she was an outsider. And she sat there at that computer all day, and then it was time to leave, and she said goodbye, and they just go, bye. That was the conversation. So I gave her some suggestions. I said, when you walk in, wear something that you've never worn to work. She said, well, like what? I said, well, wear a jumpsuit, you know, because it was just a little office with about 7 people in it, and all in little desks in Japan, small rooms. And instead of putting on, you know, a nice suit, and she's not meeting anybody. I mean, they're just sitting in a room, you know, dressed up. So she said, I can't do that. I said, your mind is saying you can't do that because you're thinking that they are going to judge you the minute you walk in the door. But they're already judging you according to what you've told me, and they're not talking to you. They don't like you. So you said, so what are you worrying about? Go in comfort to yourself. Put on the most comfortable thing. Well, she didn't wear a jumpsuit, but she did wear a sloppy jumper. For those American sweater. And she went in, and of course, she didn't get what she expected, because instead, one of the women turned around and said, where did you get that? I like that. She'd opened the door because she'd put something different on, and they noticed her. So we discussed that. And then she said, what does that mean? So I said, you've opened a door that you're approachable. They thought you were not approachable before because you come in, you're dressed up to kill, you sit at the computer, you're focused on the computer, you don't talk to them, I'm going to lunch, I'm coming, I'll be back in half an hour. So here I want to point out by this example that you might be someone listening, that is, might be the one who is closed down and people don't want to invade your space. So you get angry with them and you feel they're neglecting you, when actually they're giving you space because they don't know what to do with you, because you haven't shared any part of you. So they get angry with you because you're not opening up. So there are a lot of people in relationships across the world. Never mind the circumstances, we have to look at our individual perception of the world and flower. And if we don't open up and share who we are, how can anyone know who we are? Why should they bother to talk to us? So when I go shopping, and I want to pass this on to people so they can think about this, if I'm trying on a dress, in my mind, I say, thank you to the person who sold it somewhere in some sweatshop in the middle of nowhere with no money, so that I can buy a dress for $10. I appreciate that. To the person who's helping me fit the dress on, thank you for your time. Thank you for telling me how you saw me at the back because I couldn't see it. I really appreciate your input. Thank you. Even if it's off the wall, I will say that. Even if I don't like the dress and they're telling me it's wonderful, I will say, thank you for your time and your effort in supporting me. If I go to the grocery store and I'm getting all my stuff out, I would just say, thank you. I bet you just get tired doing check after check. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
I always make a point of giving a compliment. If I see something I like, I say, I will say to it's a lovely dress you're wearing. And I know it's going to fluff their day up. We have to learn to compliment. We have to learn to do that with our loved ones. I always used to say to my husband, I love you today, even if it was a grumpy face. You do. You have to share yourself in as nice a way as possible, and people will respond to you nicely.
I did that with my children as well, and that was a classic example of like, yes, I am a single mom, so therefore, even though I might be on a live show right now, I have to take 20 seconds out and just make sure that my son is okay, because there could be something going on that I don't know about, and at that point, I've neglected my own children as a mother, and so But the thing is that my children have adapted to the fact that I do have a radio show, and so they love the fact that I'm able to use my voice and to educate, and so we every single night we have a ritual that that me and my boys do, and so now it's gotten to a point where my boys actually come to me during the day or after school or whenever they're around me. They'll just come up and give me a hug for absolutely no reason, and they say, "I love you, mommy." And so that translated from what you were saying, that is being an adult, but translating that in instilling that for children is the best thing ever, because these children are coming up in a cold, they're growing up in a cold, hard world, and of mixed everything, mixed emotions, mixed mentalities, mixed perspectives, mixed everything, and they're it's not to say that they're not lost. It's they aren't lost. It's just that there's so much it can overwhelm somebody that is growing up, but just being basic and installing little values and things like that, and little affirmations goes a long way.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in agreement with you. And a lot of mothers did homeschooling. You did for a while too, with COVID, and even before that, it was going on. And when I look back to when my kids were young, I wish I'd have done homeschooling, because my kids got bullied, kindergarten even. And my youngest, Craig, who's really successful in the world, he was bullied by 3 older brothers. So he goes to kindergarten and he starts bullying all the other kids, and they sent for me and said, he can't come unless he behaves. So I had to take him home and explain to him, and after that he was a model kid. But if parents, I think the best way I always advise parents is when they're really young, story time, bedtime is the right time to make up a story, not read it and have a moral in the story. And I did that with my grandchildren as well, when I was around them as much as I could. And even the adults would come in and sit on the end of the bed or on the floor because they wanted to hear the story. So channel, inspire, even if you don't think you've got spirit guides around you, try it. Once upon a time, there was a fairy, and it was a boy fairy if you got boy child. It's a girl fairy if you got a girl child. We got both. You could have one of each fairies, and they want to go play on the toadstools, and every time they fall on the toadstools, they fall off and hurt their knees, and they cry a lot. And then grandfather fairy came along, and grandfather fairy said, "Oh, you've hurt your knee. I'll just wave a magic wand over it and put a little bit of ointment on, and it's so healed." They hear that and fall asleep, and then the next day they just scrape their knee. "Mummy, where's the bandage?" Because they know, you see. So I did that with all my kids from as young as they were to almost, but I have spirit guides in my head, I admit, but my dad was a good storyteller too, so I inherited that talent. And even today, I still do it when I have people in for reading or counseling. I thank you, Katie. That's my novel. Henry's Secrets is a whodunit. See, there's an example. I thought was going to write a romantic story. Turned out to be a whodunit story. They get in my head and out comes whatever I'm going to write. Anyway, going back to that, if we leave nothing else, I hope the message is don't create a toxic relationship by judgment, by saying, I've watched you do A, B, C, you're driving me crazy, you need to stop doing A, B, C. Whatever it is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever, if you can't, by your presence, be a good influence, you must face the fact that you're trapped and get out of it. There's no two ways about it, because an addicted person is an addicted person. And it might be your leaving is the very essence of the situation they need to realize they've lost everything, because the basics are fear, pain, anger, guilt, and loss. And by the way, this is a good time to plug that we're going to, I'll let you do that, do talks on Easy Peasy and Samaris, and to go there and sign up. Yeah.
Finish what you were saying, then, and
Well,
we're gonna start wrapping up anyway. So
yeah.
What you were saying, and then I'll do all the plugs.
Well, basically, what I'm saying is that as long as you are sensitive to your environment and you understand you have a choice in the way you respond, and you consciously make that change, you have a possibility of saving that relationship, no matter where it is. But if you have no awareness and you're just beady-eyed, focused on what's wrong, and don't see yourself in the picture, but rather looking on outside of it, you're going to become the tyrant. You're going to become the nagging bitch or the nagging male equivalent, whatever that is. And you're going to make yourself miserable and everyone else miserable. So pull back, go sit in the park, contemplate you. If you were an outsider advising whatever you're doing to someone else, what you're seeing, to someone else, what would you tell yourself? And apply it. And be disciplined about that, and bite your tongue as often as you can, so you make sure you listen and get all the facts.
Yeah. Don't get yourself into toxic relationships. And if you don't know what you're looking for in terms of the red flags, then seek professional help or seek somebody like us. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here. This is what we do. We educate. And with that said, I'm going to do the little plugs that I've got coming up. We are going to be doing a launch soon for the Samaris Education Center and Easy Peasy Solutions, and the revival. The revival of the Universal Christchurch. So that is coming up very soon. I'm going to put out some promos over. Tomorrow's my day off, so I'll be working tomorrow and putting out some promos in that. But we are looking for towards the end of this week. We will be doing a launch, and of course, it's Margaret's birthday on Thursday.
Yes. I'm going backwards when I reach 80.
Yes. It's Margaret's birthday on so we will be discussing what day exactly. I'm hoping that it's going to be, the launch is going to be on the 24th. However, I may delay it by one day and have it on the 25th, only because school here in DC is finally breaking off. So that would mean Friday for me is completely free to celebrate.
Well, as I said to you, nobody will care if it's a day or 2 or 3 later. So just sign up. Tell them what to do.
Yes, go sign up. For those who are wanting to sign up, you can go to easypeasysolutions.org. If you go over to the video that is up on Facebook Live and YouTube, you will see in the description all of the website links and all of the links for everything that we do. Go over to easypeasysolutions.org for the free talks that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing fear, anger, pain, guilt. What was the other one?
Loss. Fear, pain, anger, guilt, loss. Yeah. And we've got a free workbook if you sign up, because see, it's very important to do some soul searching, self truths. So this book I want to give them is something I wrote where it asks you a question, you've got to write down whatever it is, because you can refer back to it over and over again, whatever classes, courses, lecture, workshop you attend, it'll be the core energy. And so you have to be truthful when you do that. And that will be free when you sign up. We'll send it to you.
Yes, and of course, those are the free talks on East Species Solutions. We will have courses up on the somafusioneducationcenter.com website as well. There, if you're looking for ministerial courses with the church, you can go over to the universalchristchurch.com. If at any time, all three websites have sign up, so please put your email in there. If you are wanting to contact us directly, you can email us at Samaris, SUMARIS, UCC, I had to think then, at gmail.com. You can make an inquiry. You can talk to us through there. Either me or Margaret will answer your email from there. Again, if you, I will mention too that there will be some promos coming up this weekend on, or at least this week in the next day or two, up on social media. So please look out for that. We will be live again for this show at 7 p.m. Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. Of course, if you are looking for Margaret's archives for her show, if you haven't already checked it out, please go over to soundcloud.com/Dr. Margaret Speaks. You can find all of Dr. Margaret's pages for the Samaris Education Center, Journey into an Unknown World. I can remember.
It's too much. I've been doing this for publicly for 50 something years. So
but again, you can find me too, and I'm everywhere as well. I mean, we're just, we're two little stars that shine bright somewhere in the world wide web out there. So it is nothing. But like I said, for those who can't read, I'm telling you, but for those who can read, please go over to the description, because all the information that I'm telling you is already there. But like I said, for those who are looking for this show and many others like it that I do produce on a daily basis, Monday to Saturday, go to somafusionmedia.com, or you can go over to the Soma Fusion Media page on Facebook, and you can find all the details out there for all the live shows that we have, and much, much more.
Well, one thing I do want to throw in that we haven't actually put up yet, remember, we want to build for mums and children an intro for psychic development, because there's a lot of mums who've got psychic kids and they don't know what to do with them. So, we're working on that. And so how we're going to do it, whether we're going to just have all mums one day and all kids the next day, but mums sitting in the background somewhere, or whether we have mums and kids together, we need feedback. We need to want from mums how you would like to study what the psychic ability is in an easy, simple way for you to bring up your kids using their psychic senses and develop your own as well.
Yes, and also too, we would like you also to let us know what you want to hear or hear us talk about on this show, because we can sit here and talk about never-ending subjects, but you, the listener, we need you to engage and let us know what you want us to talk about, so that we can get to the heart of the matter.
See, right now, there's a lot of people who are talking about the aliens and whether they're real or not real or whatever. And I had my alien experiences, as you know, so that is a category. And there's a lot of people talking about the medicines and what they kill and don't in the pharmaceutical stuff. There's a lot of people talking about space age. And so, we want to be expansive. So don't think just because we're metaphysicians that all we talk about is psychic and love and healing and God, and we're outside the box.
Exactly. And like I said, both Margaret and I have different specialties. I come from a different background. I'm half the age of Margaret, and Margaret, of course, has her background, and a different area of expertise. Where see, she's more intuitive, and she obviously because you are a medium, whereas I am still developing, even though I have it, but I won't proclaim it just yet. But yeah, we have two different levels. So I'm academics, and Margaret is completely
Practical.
practical.
Yeah, and so one of the things you asked me what we should do, and I thought we could do a little bit on the next show, if you're up for it, teaching them about reflexology, acupressure. We could show them, and so you can calm yourself down and feel more relaxed. And then I thought I'd share a few little hypnosis techniques, you know, so they can understand what hypnosis is, because a lot of people are afraid of that hypnosis. And of course, meditation, hypnosis is the same thing, so they won't meditate. So I'd like to help people understand that it's not wacko to be able to put yourself into a light hypnotic state. So I thought we could do something practical next time. Have you any thoughts you'd like to add something to that? Like you like your drawing.
Art therapy,
Art therapy, yeah.
music, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. So join us next week.
Yes. To join us next week. Yeah, but like I said, I'm gonna put out a whole heap of promos. So I don't know whether our show this week is gonna get buried somewhere in the promos somewhere, but it'll be always up there for people to see. You just have to pay attention to what's up there. I get many people saying, "Oh, I didn't know that was on." Believe me and trust me, the information is out there. You need to look for it. And this is why we go through the last 5 or 10 minutes of the show to let you know, even though it's a lot of information to take in, the information is there. We tell you what the details are. We tell you what websites to go to, what our email address is, who you can contact. And so there shouldn't be any reason why you don't know anything about what we're doing and when we're doing it. And so yeah, it's just a matter of paying attention to what's out there and going with it.
And if of course you want a private session with Katie or me, all you have to do is email us and we'll get back to you. We do it online. We can do Zoom or Skype or just phone, or if we're up the street from me, you can come to my house. Yeah, no more masks.
No, exactly.
I still wore mine today. I got my head burned, which is the Holy Ghost, and they told me, I said, what's this? And like, no message, which they usually give me. So I looked down, and then I saw this mask my son had given me, and I heard yes. So I wore it around the 99-cent store. I don't know if anyone was contagious, but I did what I was told. I listen to spirit. I do what I'm told, and I advise anyone else who's psychic, listen to your high ascended master teachers. They will never let you down. And if you ask a question of them and the answer is no, they say nothing, because there's nothing to say about no.
And just so you know, Margaret Veronica said happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad she's still with us. Thank you for staying with us. Yeah.
A few people that have been listening to us the entire time. They were a little bit late to start talking in the comments, but yeah, they've made a whole heap of comments.
Well, we'd love your comments in our pages, Easy Peasy Solutions, if you'd like to comment there, because then we can share that with other people. Word of mouth is the best way, always. People first-hand experience, it is vital, because you trust, the people who've been there and done it, and therefore they're telling you as much info as you need to know about it that satisfies you. And then when you've got a little bit of information, then you can go check it out, and maybe you learn something yourself and pass that on. That's growth. That's growth.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, I think I probably said too much. I don't do much.
I can never say too much.
Well, I'm making up for all the years I was told you can't speak at all.
I'm making up for. Well, with that said, guys, you are listening to Dr. Margaret and Dr. Katie Speaks.
Yeah, well done. She got it.
I've changed the title on the show now, so anywho, but
You put a lot of study in your title to it. Yeah, yay.
but yeah, I will be putting out the promos. Look out for them. But until then, we will see you next Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Soma Fusion Media Radio Network, and we'll see you then.
Yeah.
But
Thank
yeah,
you for listening to us, whoever you are. And please share us. We're here. We want to be shared. Blessings, blessings to all. We appreciate you listening. Thank you.
love you. Bye.
Bye.